Guys, how's it going? It's Al. Week 10 is here, so I'm going to take questions from my Twitch chat for the next 45 minutes or so to an hour. We're going to talk about everything that exists on the DraftKings Week 10 slate, all the NFL DFS, all the NFL DFS questions that they might have for this weekend, whether it's cash game questions, underdog pick'em, GPP plays, value plays, who to pay up for, all the different positions, and we'll take a look at everything. This is a weird slate. It's not always a weird slate. This one is particularly. Last week was as well. Feel free to break whatever rules you want. You're the one that's clicking submit on your lineup, so play whatever makes you the happiest, and let's go.
He's a legend.
The Week 10 Listener League is posted. Plenty of room in there. $10 to enter. It is not a lobby game. You have to go to smizzle.tv/links if you want to find it. It is, like always, no rake and still the best tournament that exists on DraftKings. We have to fill it. $45,000 in, $45,000 out. If we do not get the 4,500 entries, it's going to keep getting smaller for the rest of the season. So if we want to keep it this size, go to smizzle.tv/links, enter your 3 entries today, and use your missions too. And you to go to rewards, click missions, get your mission for the day, and get all of the crowns that you can with your entry fees. I will shout out the top 10 finishers on the Monday recap show. The stream that we do on Mondays goes up on the Fantasy Football channel, so you can find that in the link tree as well. Let's bring in the chat, see what type of questions that they may have. What core of running backs are you playing around in Week 10? There's a lot, kind of as always, right? So we have, I don't know how to, like, it's, I think there's 2 quarterbacks, starting with cash games, right? Since that's apparently where we're going with this. So let's start with quarterbacks. I think there are 2 when it comes to cash game quarterbacks. One is Patrick Mahomes. If you're going to pay all the way up, if you can find enough value to do it, and there is some value specifically at wide receiver differently than we've had it in weeks before, where there's a couple of guys under 4,500 that I think are both viable for cash games, and it's going to depend on whether you want to play both of them. There's still plenty of value at tight end, which is the direction that most people are going to go at tight end, which means that you can't afford Patrick Mahomes, or you're going to come down to Justin Fields at 6,500. Those are the 2 cash game plays there. So neither of them is a lock. It's going to depend on the lineup that you want to build. At running back, I feel like the majority of people, assuming that he's fine and plays, are going to be on Dameon Pierce. He's got the really solid floor, really good usage in the passing game every week except for that game against Philly. Since he's taken over the job, gets a heavy dose, runs really well, is only 6,300. I think that he is a core cash game play. And I kind of feel like Alvin Kamara over Travis Etienne is another core play in cash, just based on the amount of volume that he's seen in the pass game. Now, if you want to go with somebody else, that's fine, because there's like 8-9 running backs this week that are in very good spots. But I think that these are going to be the 2 highest played running backs, all things considered. If you want to get up to Henry, if you want to get up to Barkley, totally understand. And you can, because there's 2 plays at wide receiver that I think are also kind of core plays for cash, which means that Mac Hollins, due to everybody except Davante Adams being put on IR for the Raiders, now has made it so that he is kind of not just going to be running wind sprints on the side. He's already played a lot of snaps. He is already running routes on basically every one of Derek Carr's dropbacks because, he's a wide receiver. And now he's going to get targeted more because there are targets available with Waller out and Renfro out, meaning that Mac Hollins is going to be accelerated. Whatever you're looking at on Friday, if you're watching this video on Friday for his percent in tournaments, that's going to go way up. Like he might be like a 15 to 20% play in tournaments. Donovan Peoples-Jones is the other play. I don't think that he's a must play. Before the Hollins play, I think that people are going to go to DPJ. After Hollins became available, I think that people aren't going to go to DPJ, but I think that playing both of them in cash games is viable. And if you wanted to play both together, I'm totally fine with that. And then at tight end, it kind of looks the same as it's looked in previous weeks. You're going into this range. Morrow, Evan Engram, but Dulcich appears to be probably the chalk. It's going to be either Dulcich or Morrow. Morrow doesn't really have the big playability or big play ceiling that Dulcich has. So I think that the floor of targets looks similar for the 2 of them. So that puts Dulcich in that spot as well. So like those are the kind of the cash game core guys. Last time Hollins was a lock, he went nuclear. That's the thing. He wasn't a lock that week. We were on him, but he wasn't a lock. But it was the last time he was in a similar situation to this. They're going to lean very heavily on Davante Adams and Josh Jacobs. Those 2 are going to probably be responsible. I'm going to guess safely guess, I would say over 33 opportunities for that duo, possibly over 35 or 36 targets plus carries for Josh Jacobs and Devontae Adams. And then they run, 65 to 70 plays a game. Where's the other opportunities going to go? But they're getting about half or plus, 50% plus of the opportunities. Just those two on that team. Is Amari Cooper cash worthy? A lot of projections are going to tell you that he is, but like in that range, I think there's better plays, right? Or at least one specifically better play. So in that range, you have Amari Cooper at 6,500, but like I really do feel that Amon-Ra St. Brown is the better play at wide receiver. We've seen big games from Amari Cooper, and I think Amari Cooper is fine. And I'm not somebody who buys into home road splits. I'm just not, right? Like the ball doesn't know if it's at home or on the road. Amari Cooper's ankles don't know if he's at home or on the road. His ability to run routes doesn't change if he's at home or on the road. And yes, I know it was a thing that happened in Dallas, and I know that it's an anomaly that's happened in Cleveland so far, but it's an anomaly. So I'm not buying into like it's funny, right? He's averaging 23 points per game at home and 5.7 on the road. So like it's a road game. We should totally fade him, but this is not really a thing. Am I still absolutely double stacking everybody this week? No, it's another break the rules week because it's a weird thing. But what if they do know? What if his ankles know? I'd love like a really deep dive by somebody. You know who does a good job of this stuff is like Josh Norris from Underdog. Does a fantastic job of doing these deep dives into the film room because he's very much a film guy. He's an analytics guy too, but he's a very, very good film guy. So I would love to see a deep dive into the routes run or reception perception. Matt Harmon, I'd love to see them do a deep dive, and look at the routes that they run for Amari Cooper at home versus the routes that he runs on the road. What's the deal with the ad? Twitch runs ads, dude. It's going to run 5 minutes of ads every single hour. That's what it's going to do. I break them up to running 2.5 minutes every 29 minutes. There are certainly ways to not get ads on Twitch, but Twitch is going to run ads. Cooper's ankles only work in the altitude and climate that he practices in. Right. Like at least in Dallas, you could have made the argument that, he was on turf and he's a better route runner on turf. And then he plays on the road on grass. It's a different story, but like plays on grass when he's in Cleveland. So I don't know. It's weird. Don't know. Is this week double tight end and GPP? If you want to allow Kelsey, that's fine with me, right? Because like double tight end assumes all double tight ends. So like if you wanted to build a double tight end lineup where you're getting value with somebody like Dulcich or Evan Ingram or Morrow, and you're like, well, that allows me to afford Kelsey, and I'll differentiate through that and get, Kelsey and Juju and Mahomes, and I need that extra 3K guy in the lineup to get there. Yeah, I'm okay with that because Kelsey does have wide receiver ceiling. He does have 30 plus point ceiling, where most don't. Most tight ends don't have that sort of ceiling. What are your thoughts on buying field passes for next week? This is a Rainmaker's question. Is it worth to pay for the field pass to guarantee the chance to pursue? This is not exactly a DFS question, but I'll answer it. So like the field passes for Rainmakers get you a discount on packs, or at least they did this year. I'm going to assume that's going to be the same thing next year on pre-sale packs. And it's tiered based on what tier you buy into for the field pass. They also give you a field pass pack of 1 card. So you're guaranteed a free pack early in the year. So there's merit to it. There's, you would get right of first refusal if you hold a team pass this season. When they resell them next season, you'll be able to get the field pass next season for whatever they sell it for. Or you could just say no, and then they'll auction it off. Do I think Pollard is still safe in GPP? So safe is the wrong word. Nobody's safe in a GPP. There's no such thing as safe in a GPP. I think it moves it. I think it holds down his number. You're gambling if you play Pollard in a tournament. You're not playing him in cash if Ezekiel Elliott's there. If you're playing him in a tournament, the gamble that you're making by playing Pollard in a tournament is that Ezekiel Elliott is active, because they've announced that Ezekiel Elliott is going to play or they feel that Ezekiel Elliott is going to play in this game. So if he is active for this game, you know that Pollard is not going to get 80% of the running back snaps and touches. And your gamble is that I don't think that Ezekiel Elliott, like you think that he's active, but really he's just active. Where Ezekiel Elliott's going to play like 20% of the snaps. They're just going to kind of DeAndre Swift him, so to speak, where DeAndre Swift is active, but Jamal Williams is getting 20 to 25 touches a week because they're not sure that DeAndre Swift is totally ready, or have not been sure the last 2 weeks that he's fully ready at this point. So that's the gamble you'd be making. That's about how many quarterbacks am I going with this week? I don't know. Haven't decided yet. I don't make lineups until I don't start making lineups until Friday night is when I make my first original run on the optimizer and start putting in some weights and things like that. And then I let it sit all Saturday until Saturday night. I don't touch it again until Saturday night, Sunday morning. Shefty just tweeted, is the backup in Cleveland usable at tight end now? Yeah, so Njoku apparently just was ruled out, which means at tight end for Cleveland, Njoku out. So Harrison Bryant is the next guy up. You know, he's going to be the one that's going to line up and run a lot of routes, but like he can catch. He's got ability. We'll see. I'm not like falling all over myself to play him. Does it boost DPJ more? I mean, those targets have to go somewhere. I disagree that Njoku's injury was what pushed, you know, I mean, maybe Njoku last game that he played start and finish was week 7, and DPJ, if you kind of look at his box scores, has been performing longer than week 7. So like week 7 with Njoku there, he had 6 catches on 6 targets, 4 for 4 the week after with Njoku out, had 4, 4, 5. Like he's been a thing in this offense for a month plus at this point, with Njoku being a thing in this offense. You just can't throw it to one guy. And they've played games over that month where they've lost. You know, they've been in passing script situations where they have to throw it more. If they play from ahead, they're not going to throw it a lot. That's just the way that they're going to operate. They are a run the ball first team that aspires to run it 35 to 40 times a game. Why are Dallas stacks projecting so low for GPP? Green Bay defense that good? I don't know. I think people just go elsewhere. We're a very projection-based industry at this point, which is to say that the ownership numbers correlate with value, right? If you go look at whatever projection set that you look at, you're going to find players that are great points per dollar values having more people play them in tournaments because that's how people think. But points per dollar plays are more aligned with median projections. And if you think that a median projection is going to get you to winning a tournament, you're a fool. So people that only make point per dollar play, like that's how you should play cash games. You want to stuff as many points per dollar. You want to stuff as many points over expectation at salary price. You want to stuff as many good matchups with those things and volume into your lineups as you possibly can in cash. In tournaments, it's a different game. Who breaks the slate? I have no idea. Yeah. Do I think Josh Allen plays? If he's out, I mean, again, I'm not a news breaker. I'm a news reactor. I'm not in a locker room. I'm not, you know, I know some people that are inside the buildings and I ask them questions from time to time. But I'm not a news breaker. Shefty is a news breaker. So when Shefty comes out with something, my job as an analyst is to react to the news and say what the next thing is. How are we going to deal with this news that has broken from the newsbreaker? So like, I don't have a do I think Josh Allen plays take. My reactions are if then statements. If Josh Allen plays, then this. If Josh Allen sits, then this. But the news is, I don't know. I can make educated guesses like I kind of did with Jamar Chase. They didn't put him on IR, which would shelf him for 4 weeks. So their intel from their doctors says that it's going to take him less than 4 weeks to get back to active. And so after this bye week, I would not be shocked if, like, I wouldn't be shocked either way if Jamar Chase plays in week 11 or if Jamar Chase sits in week 11. But they might play him based on the not putting him on IR thing where he'd have to be out for 4 weeks. 150 Josh Allen doubles. Sure, every week. Would I say Jamal Williams is in the same boat as Pollard? Less so. Because even in a game where there was nobody there, when it was Pollard, he still only got 15 opportunities. They don't want to give Pollard 25 opportunities in a game. He just can't do that. Hunt at 5,300 seems like a sneaky good play. I wouldn't totally disagree with that. Do I think Pacheco is viable in GPP? What is your path to a ceiling? Tell me how you get there. If you can tell me how you get to a ceiling at his salary, what is your desired outcome so that you can define what you win when you win? Like that's kind of the key. If Hardman is out, does Kadarius Toney slide into his role or does MVS get more run? I mean, MVS is getting run. We can't we can't pretend like MVS is not getting run. That's all he's getting literally is running. Like he is out there and he is running routes. He played 71 of 100 snaps last game. Against San Francisco, 35 of 64, so that was low. But against Buffalo, 55 of 67 snaps. He is running. He's Forrest Gump right now. That's all he's getting is running. He is getting all the cardio that he can handle. Tony equals Hardman if he's out? Maybe. I mean, Tony is a better receiver. He's a better football player than Mecole Hardman. Mecole Hardman is faster than Kadarius Toney. Kadarius Toney has been hurt, so he has not been able to show on the field as often that he is a better football player than Hardman. Do I like golf stacks? Sure. It doesn't matter who you stack, guys. I mean, it does, but it doesn't. Same rule applies. Define the outcome that you need from that quarterback. Derek Carr, define the outcome that you need. And past performance is not indicative of future results. So for you to say, well, he's averaging 15 points and he doesn't have any game over 23.8 this year, does that mean he is incapable of throwing for 4 touchdowns in a game? Can he not do that? Will his arm fall off after 2, right? A lot of quarterbacks have ceilings that we don't give them credit for. So you have to define, is it a possibility that they get that sort of ceiling? Does a game put them in that position where they could possibly get that sort of ceiling? You mentioned Jared Goff, 17.8 points, had the one blow-up game. If you took this game out, would you believe that he had a ceiling? We could say, well, he did have 4 touchdowns in this game against Washington. Any quarterback can get there. It's just a matter of when they get there. And again, when you're playing for 30-point quarterback games, we've talked about the history of what is attached to the 30-point quarterback game on DraftKings, and their primary receiver averages X amount of points. Their secondary receiver, when they have those 30-point games, gets like this amount of points, and there's somebody on the other team that averages this amount. It's like, and it adds up to like 105 to 110 points. That's pinned in the tournament folder in Discord. All of that research that we did is pinned up there. So like, and the quarterback the last 3 years plus this one, when they score over 30, averages 35 DraftKings points per game. Like those 4 spots essentially get you like 105 to 120 points. I forget what the exact number is. Your thoughts would be Pacheco falling in the end zone twice. You don't see Jacksonville stacking him with Kelsey. So for Pacheco, to me, winning for Pacheco would require us projecting a higher snap count and touch count for him. They played 100 snaps last week. He played 22 of them. The week before, 19 of 64. The week before, 10 of 67. So like, it's the least fantasy friendly backfield that exists because they're a pass first offense that runs around the ability of Patrick Mahomes to throw the football. They don't run any of them more than 35% of the snaps. They run weird packages anytime they get inside the 5-yard line. So like when you win, let's say he scores 2 touchdowns. If Pacheco, in the case that Pacheco scores 2 touchdowns, how many yards and touches does he have? How many catches does he have? So like, is it a situation where he gets you a game like James Conner got last year early in the season? Remember James Conner early in the season when he was getting like 10 or 12 touches, none of them in the passing game, and had the ability to score 1 or 2 touchdowns. When you win with James Conner, what did you win? You got like 14 points. Like that's not winning you a GPP. I do think Pacheco has big playability. Maybe he can break off an 80-yard touchdown. I kind of feel like that's the only way you win with Pacheco. It's Kenny Pickett week. I've heard a lot of people say that. A lot of people in the replies this week on YouTube are all over, like they want that bad. Favorite secondary stack this week? I haven't really thought about it because it's really an ugly slate. I'm going to assume Miami Cleveland because it's a very easy stack to get to, and there's not enough value. Like I kind of feel like the best secondary stack potentially that I don't know if you can get to reasonably. I'm not sure you can get there, but like I feel like on a normal week this would be it. Nobody's gonna play it. Cup and Nuke seems like a ridiculous secondary stack, but I don't know if we can get there. You feel like there's 3 amazing stacks and the rest are blah. I don't think that there's. I don't. I talked about this on the top stacks video. This is the worst week that I can remember in over a decade playing daily fantasy. the worst main slate from a lot of different standpoints. The matchups are trash. The correlation sucks. The prices have been ratcheted up. It's very tight, just like last week when it felt disgusting to make lineups. It's that way this week. So this game, not on the slate. This game, who are you playing from this game? Somebody mentioned Judy earlier in the chat, versus Sutton. Russ has looked awful. This game has a total of 38.5, guys. Like, this game potentially shoots out 49.5. This game looks really nice, but who are you bringing it back with on the Bears? They don't really throw the ball. They split their running backs between two different guys, and Fields is really emerging. So, like, you kind of have to break, you could break rules here to get access to this game and just go with like Fields with Amon-Ra St. Brown, and then that's your secondary stack, right? Like, that's your correlation in this game is Fields to Amon-Ra, and just there's your weird, stupid break the rules secondary stack, which could allow you to get to other things. This game looks way less palatable. Vegas clearly assuming with the drop in line, Buffalo had a team total of 29.5 when it opened. It is now all the way down to 23. Yeah. And that's not like that's just on the assumption that Josh Allen is limited. Josh Allen isn't out yet. If like this opened at 7.5, Bills are still favored by 3.5. This flips. I think that the Vikings are favored by 1 minimum if Josh Allen's out. Then we got this game, New York against Houston. People are going to play both running backs from this game. People are going to play Barkley and people are going to play Pierce from this game. Gross. Another stackable game. And then everything else just gets really weird. The Cowboys with Dak, the Cowboys are kind of a statistical weirdo. I don't know how else to put it. They're a strange team right now because half the games they had Dak Prescott under center and half the games they had Cooper Rush under center. So when you look at them in terms of pass rate over expectation, in terms of pace of play, they look meh. But in the games that Dak Prescott was under center, they play much faster. They're very high, fast-paced team. Jacksonville and Kansas City, 2 of the top 5 teams in terms of pace in the league. That's a very fast game. So that's probably my favorite game to stack and my favorite game to use as bringbacks. And then Cleveland and Miami. Like that, I mean, I got there for you. It's that's how we get there. Let's do an underdog. Let's do an underdog. All right. Underdog Fantasy. If you do not have an account on Underdog Fantasy, you can use that promo code ALSMIZZLE, ALSMIZZLE, to get up to a $100 deposit bonus on your first deposit to the site. They have these great things like Pick'em. I'm going to go over here. Let's go DPJ higher than 3.5 receptions. He had 4 or more catches, in the last 5 games. So I'm going to go over 3.5. He'll probably have 1 catch. Let me get Jeff Wilson. I'll take him over 41 rushing yards in this one. And is there anywhere else I can go in this game to get like a correlation play? Like this is like the value one, right? 6 rushing yards, 270 passing yards. These are all like really close. These are all very difficult. I'm gonna go higher here, which means I'm gonna go higher than that, and that'll do it. Let's do that for $50. We'll submit that. Boom, put that in, confirm, and we'll get back to it. What defenses am I looking at this week? Probably like Minnesota at 2,200. If Josh Allen's out, is just the way, right? They're the Mandalorian play of the week if Josh Allen's out. And then I like Arizona at 27. I mean, you just stream defenses against the Rams. Their offensive line is the worst in the league. It's amazing how much having that bad an offensive line can just completely derail a team. What do I think the effect Saturday will have on the Colts? I don't know. I think they're just professional football players at this point. Like, look, we're here to do a job. This is not an ideal situation for us. We expect it to be one thing. We're a different thing. They're not going to try and put bad tape on the field. Like, the assumption always gets made by people on Twitter, by people, football fans. Oh, the players, they're going to tank. No, the players don't do that. Players don't try to tank.
He's a legend.
Mizzle, thank you for the 23 months. Steelers O-line would like a word. I mean, it's possible to be 31 out of 32. They're bad too, but like the Rams are the worst. So Saturday is not going to try and lose games. And who's the play caller? Is it Reggie Wayne? Is that who's going to be their play caller? Like, he's not going to try and lose games. This is an audition for everybody that's on the coaching staff. And if you're a player, you're never trying to put bad tape out there. They're going to put as good a tape as they possibly can as individuals they're going to be professionals and they're going to play as hard as they can. Now, whether or not they can win or not, who knows? Don't think they can. But the assumption that players are trying to tank or a coach is trying to tank, it never works out. So like if a coach is losing games, you're basically losing games to get a draft pick for the guy who's going to replace you. Harrison's going to be the next offensive coach. Don't know who he is. Never heard that name before. Not aware of who he is. Sorry. Fading Jonathan Taylor this week. I mean, that seems to be what everybody's doing, right? Yeah, Brodeur, I've never heard that name before. Don't know who he is. No, never heard that name. Don't know that man. Sorry. Doesn't ring a bell. I'm a Syracuse graduate. Don't know that guy. Like I said, I tweeted out. No, not redacted. No. Let's just move on. Don't know that guy. Sorry. Never heard of him. Who's my favorite pay down value wide receiver for GPP? DPJ. I like Donovan Peoples-Jones. 4,200. He's a solid play. Getting volume. Big play upside. JT's going to run it 40 times. Maybe. It's entirely possible, but that's another trash offensive line right now with a bad quarterback. And like, here's the thing. When you have a really, really, really bad quarterback behind a really, really, really bad offensive line, there's no way to drop back 3, 5, 7 step drops and have 3 seconds to observe and look around. And primary read? No. Secondary read? No. Come down here, check down, K. Like, you don't have that sort of time. So guess what? Safeties, they start creeping up to the line. So you have a bad offensive line. You got 9 in the box to stop the one weapon that you can just literally give the ball to. And so he sucks too. It's not about him. Who's going to be the guy that I see? So like last week I had 40% Joe Mixon and like on the Anti-Tinkercast, people are like, wait a minute, Al has 40% Joe Mixon? What the hell? Who's your 40% guy this week? I need in. I don't know until Sunday morning. Because who I play is not who I think is going to crush that week, if that makes sense. Like, I do think they're a good player in a good spot, but like, I wasn't trying to project that Joe Mixon was going to be, you know, have 50 fantasy points last week. It's, is there any chalk play I'll be underweight? Yes. Who it is, I don't know. I'll find out as things move around over the weekend. Like, here's the point, guys. You need to stay nimble. Don't lock yourself into plays. You're not making specific plays. Forget the names. It's a math game. We're playing a math game when it comes to tournaments and cash. In cash, you're trying to stack opportunities, advantages, points per dollar, points over expectation, all those sorts of things. It's math. You're not worried, well, I can't trust it. I don't like this guy's name. The name doesn't matter. The points do. The math matters. When it comes to tournaments, you're playing a similar game, but a different math game. You're now not just playing against the number, you're playing against the field. And you have to do things that the field isn't going to like. Any chalk that I don't like right now? Nah, everything looks pretty standard this week. So, like, think about it like poker. It was I remember like back when World Poker Tour was a big thing. Remember that? Like that era, the early 2000s, when the World Poker Tour on the Travel Channel was like the biggest thing. Every Wednesday night, people would watch the World Poker Tour, and they'd cut to like the person on the side. They'd go to the guys in the booth. And one of the things that they said on this poker, there's 3 tiers of poker players. The first tier of poker player is playing the cards that are in front of him, right? Second level, once you move up to the second level of poker player, that player is playing not the cards that are in his hand, he's playing the cards that the other guy's holding. The third level of poker player is not playing the cards in his hand. He's not playing the cards that you have in your hand. He's playing the game of, what cards can I make you think that I have in my hand? That's GPPs. So like, how can I get this? What are the chances of this guy failing? What are the probabilities of this guy failing? I know that the field is going to have about this much of that guy, but the probability, like, they're going to have like 10% of this guy, but there's a 15 or a 20% chance that this guy is going to end up in the optimal lineup for the day or be one of the optimal running backs. So I should be overweight versus the field on this guy based on my personal allocations. You're playing a different game in GPPs, specifically larger field ones. It's easier to exploit the field with something closer to the optimal cash game lineup in small field games, which is why we tell you to play a lot of the 100-man games on FanDuel and DraftKings, single entry small field tournaments, because you can use simple correlation around core plays to get lower played players and have much more leverage on the field. It's a very easy thing to do, but you have to play that game and not play the games of, I trust this guy's safe. You don't want safe, you want to win. That's all. Chalk keeps eating, so annoying. I mean, the chalk that keeps getting there is getting a lot of volume, and volume over everything has been something that I've preached on this channel forever. And when you look at the guys who have gotten there, it's like, well, these are going to be really high volume guys. And the way that DraftKings has worked the salaries this year is that they've made it so like there's 7 to 11 players at running back who are all viable, like every week. This week, I think I looked at it and I said, Josh Jacobs, who was on the 5-box running back video this week. I want to look at this real quick because I haven't looked at it. Yesterday when I looked, and it might have changed. See, it has changed. Yesterday, Josh Jacobs was on ownership projection, the 9th highest projected ownership guy between 10 and 15%. He was like 12% on 3 different projection sets. Today, he's like projected at 24% on one. Let me check the other one and see if they've updated. No, the other one still has him at like 10%. So who knows where he's going to be? This is a 5-box running back that like people just may not play, but people are going to play Dameon Pierce, Derrick Henry. People are going to play Travis Etienne, Alvin Kamara. People are going to click Saquon Barkley, and all of them are value. All of them are volume. So that's why I do the first look video, so that like, look, learn to build lineups around correlation. And then after you build those lineups around correlation, find your way to a really solid volume play that the crowd just isn't on. And to me, last week, that was Joe Mixon. At wide receiver on 5 under 5 last week. 5 under 5 smashed last week again. Not to break my arm patting myself on the back, but like it did. Like 3 guys in that video went off. And one of them was Devontae Adams, who on the Sunday Anti-Tinkercast and YouTube, if you don't come over to Twitch on Sunday mornings and go view the Anti-Tinkercast, the last 45 minutes before lock, I'm live taking your questions all the way up until lock. I basically said, go back and clip it, somebody who wants to. I said Devontae Adams in week 9 is the same exact play that Christian McCaffrey was in week 8. Nobody's going to play him, and he has a 35-point ceiling. Chris J, thank you for the 9 months. Sick brag. Yeah. So, like, that's how I want to teach you how to think. It's not about the plays. It really isn't. It never has been. Nothing I've ever done on this channel is about telling you who to play. It's about teaching you how to play. And you play whoever the hell you want. I've had James to win on the cage. No, he spoke at a boot camp like years ago. Xandamir was one of our mods a while ago. I'll DM him to win. I haven't in a while. I haven't talked to him in a long time. Not because of anything. Just we're all on our own grind. When am I adjusting lineups to set minimum percentage to get more? I don't do that. My percentages are based more around correlation. If there's a one-off that I want, I will just boost that. I'll just change their ceiling projection or their median if I'm doing lineups by median. I'll edit the projections to get the allocations that I want. And like once I've done this for a decade plus, so like once you do it for that long, you just kind of get a feel for what you want. You can look at stuff. Dak or Trevor Lawrence this week? Okay, I need more context to that, Prodigy. For what? If it's for tournaments, both, fine. It's not about who you play, and quarterbacks typically don't matter. You know, like there's nothing there. How would I weigh Higbee's lack of targets versus how Arizona defense funnels towards? So this was something that I mentioned much earlier in the year, specifically about the Rams. First of all, the Rams suck. Let's just get that out of the way up front, okay? But bing, 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 it was Skoranek and him, okay? In games where Van Jefferson has played, Tyler Higbee has not busted a grape. Last year and now this year. His volume from weeks 1 through 5 were all weeks where Van Jefferson was not on the field. And now Van Jefferson's been back and he has gone back to running routes on like 45-50% of dropbacks, just like he was last year. Not great. Am I trying to sell Juju shares before Tony gets up to speed? No. Juju is proving that he is a very viable part of that offense. MVS is the one, and Mecole are the ones that would get pushed out a little bit. High-priced wide receivers this week or high-priced running backs? That's the question that you're going to have to answer, because the tournament play there, more people are going to be on Derrick Henry and or Saquon Barkley than Justin Jefferson or Steph Diggs or any of those, or Cooper Kupp or Nuke Hopkins. Everybody's going to go to they're going to flock to the running backs this week, because Henry is getting 30 plus touches a game and Saquon's getting 20 to 25 opportunities a game and has one of the top 3 matchups at running back. So people are going to just play them. But wide receivers can easily break the slate, especially due to DraftKings scoring. And these are really high volume players. So having the wide receivers is never a bad idea, especially when the running backs are going to be 15 to 30% and the wide receivers are going to be 1 to 10. So getting that salary spend at a much lower percentage owned to leverage over the field and also force yourself into a differentiated lineup build. Not a bad way to go. The other thing is tight end is really weird this week. Tight end can be weird a lot of weeks, but like Kelsey's 2,500 more than Hawkinson. Nobody's playing Hawkinson coming off of a 9-target game. Ertz has been really solid all year, right? No slate breaking weeks, but typically ending in the teens most weeks, averaging 12.6. IR, whatever. Not IR, but going to miss the game. 3,800. Sucked for everybody last week. Higbee sucks with Van in the lineup. Not playing as long as Smythe is on the field. Cole Kmet, they throw it 22 times a game, right? Can't believe that this is going to be an every week thing that he's going to catch 2 touchdowns on 6 targets. So that's putting everybody who plays this week into the $3,300 and down range. Possibly Dawson Knox, possibly Evan Engram. Foster Moreau is going to be popular once again because he's 3,200 with Waller out. Somebody already mentioned Harrison Bryant. You got, James Mitchell, who caught a touchdown last week at 27. Like, this is where everybody's going to live this week. So paying up to be contrarian at tight end for one of these 3, I absolutely don't hate this because of how different it's going to make your lineup. Everybody's going to be, 3,400 Dulcich. Everybody's going to be here. I would not be shocked if this was over 50% of the lineups. Maybe even 60% between Dulcich, then Moreau, then Engram. That might eat up 60% of lineups in tournaments this week. And if the highest scoring one there has 11 points out of that trio, and one of Kelsey, Hawkinson, or Ertz goes for 25 plus, those are probably going to be the lineups that win. Watching Kyler Stacks is a roller coaster of emotions. Exactly. I agree. Dawson Knox thesis, it's not. He's not a core play. But like, if Josh Allen plays, he has 2 touchdown upside. So people will always click Dawson Knox as long as Josh Allen's in the lineup. That's just the way that it goes. So like, Brumman asked about Kelsey in the flex. Like, that's fine. If you really need the value, like, it's fine, but like, I would limit it. I'm not just going to let any 2 tight ends in there, because as soon as you tell it that tight end is allowed in the flex with no rules, if you build a thing into the Fantasy Labs lineup builder or any lineup builder, if you build it into Solver, if you build it into rotogrinders, if you build it into the Fantasy Labs, I don't care what lineup builder you're using. If you tell it, put 2 tight ends in your line, allow for 2 tight ends, you're going to get like 50% this. All your lineups are going to be this. You're going to have 50% Morrow, 50% Dulcich, and it's going to stuff everything in up here because there's no wide receivers in this range. The weirdest thing about DraftKings this year has been the pricing of the wide receivers. I've said this a couple of times. These guys are all what they used to be priced. Juju Smith-Schuster in the 6K range. Look back a couple of years if you want to. Go back through the videos. Look in the 5K range. And like Deontay Johnson kind of this range. Jerry Jeudy type players. Sutton kind of players in this range. This is where they've always sat, is in this 5 to 6K range. But this range is the one that's different. So many, like Allen Robinson is 4,800. This is a $3,700 player. He's averaging 7 fantasy points a game. This is a $3,700 player. Wan'Dale Robinson, 4,700, averaging 7 fantasy points a game. Slayton is 4,600. These used to be $3,000 to $4,000 on DraftKings. All of the guys in this range up here. Hunter Renfrow, 4,400, 6.5 points. These are low. These are min salary guys. These are sub 4K guys. Not this year. This year, they're all over 4K. So now we're left looking for value with like Valdez Scantling at 4,100, Donovan Peoples-Jones at 4,300, who's actually been doing something, right? He actually belongs in this price range, but everybody else who's at him or above is no. Mac Hollins, as a result of, like, he wasn't priced here. They priced him here thinking that Waller and Renfrow were active. Now he's worth the 4,200 because everybody else vacated. But like, he's averaging 10 fantasy points a game, but he had 32 in one of them. So take away the 32 and take away the 0 and then rework his average. It's like 8. He's averaging like 8 fantasy points a game when you take out the highest and the lowest score and actually find what his real range is, as opposed to just using all scores, one of them which broke a slate, right? those two games, the 0 and the 32, averages out to like 16 and a half. So it's bringing this average way up. So because we don't have the easy value at wide receiver anymore on DraftKings, it's changing the way that you can build lineups, because you can't afford every week to play one guy in the 3,500 to 44,000 range, another guy in the 4,000 to 5,000 range, one super stud wide receiver, and then stuff in running backs. They've changed it. This changed the way that we have to play. So hopefully all of that helps you guys make lineups this week. Thank you for watching the video. Look out for another one right there.
He's a legend.